Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jason White. This is my channel, Jason's Weird Reads. If you like horror books, dark fiction, weird fiction, fantasy, and science fiction, then please hit the subscribe button and comment below and we'll discuss some books. So this is basically my 2020 halfway review. Made it halfway. I think in my last video I told you that I have read 30 books out of the 60 that I have said I would read or put on my Goodreads challenge. And so far, actually, I'm 5 books ahead. I'm not too sure the math of that because it seems like I should be spot on, but that's what Goodreads is telling me. So that's awesome. I'm 5 books ahead, and I've had a pretty good reading year so far. Concerning some stats here, I found this interesting. Goodreads tells me that I have read 7,965 pages in those 30 books, and a lot of that is due to, honestly, that's Wheel of Time. That's the Wheel of Time's influence right there. I read the last 3 or 4 books this year. I think 3. And they're each like 1,000 pages long almost. And my average rating is rather high. It's 4.2 stars, but I'm generally pretty easy to please. So take that for whatever. So I'm gonna give like a top 10 here of books that I really enjoyed this year so far, and I only stick to a top 10 at the end of the year, so it'll be fun to see exactly what books here survive to the end of the year and what will stay in my top 10 list. So this isn't in any special order because I want to save that for the end of the year. So the first book I have is Headhunter by Curran. I absolutely adored this book. It really fed onto old obsessions of mine about the Vietnam War, and Curran really kind of nailed everything I've read that was realistic about that war, aside from the head collecting monster that was in the story, of course. But that's neither here nor there, because Vietnam was so fucked up that there could have been some Vietnamese folklorish monster out in the jungle collecting heads. It could have been. Also, Armageddon House by Michael Griffin. I was sent this free by the publisher, and Michael Griffin set that up for me, so I want to thank Michael Griffin for getting this to me, and Michael Kelly from Undertow Publications for mailing it to me. And I really enjoyed this book. I was so glad to have read it. Also, our Doris makes my top list for the first half. This is about Doris, what's her last name? Doris Copeland and her husband, Harold. Basically, she's competing for 5th house for the Women's Institute garden safari. And so Doris is one of those people who are, you could call, insufferable. They're rather hard to get close to. Even Harold doesn't necessarily have that privilege. It's a very funny book, and I absolutely adored reading it. I can't wait to read the rest of the books, honestly. I read Black Mountain Makes the List by Laird, Barron. As I said in one of my last videos there, this book had some creepy elements to it near the end. The whole concept really is kind of creepy. It's about a serial killer who hunts and kills mob people. And, you know, it's pretty dark, and the ending just kind of goes off the rails, but it still makes, you know, coherent sense. Laird Barron's known for his weird fiction, but it gets weird in here. But like I said, there's even though it goes a little weird, there's still a story, and the story doesn't ever come off the rails. So if you like explanations and whatnot, you still might like this series by Laird Barron. And, you know, I highly recommend it, especially if you like those noir type detective books with very, very sort of dark content. Also on the list is the very last book of The Wheel of Time, written by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan, A Memory of Light. This book was filled with battle. I mean, oh my god, there's so much battle in this book, it's crazy. But the whole series was leading up to this, and in every book of the series prior to A Memory of Light, the last battle was on everyone's mind. And in this book it happens, and it is incredibly violent and kind of depressing. A lot of main characters kind of die. And there's a bit of a surprise ending too. I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. Number 6, I have I Am Not Your Final Girl by Claire C. Holland. Now, this book isn't technically fiction, obviously, because it's a book of poetry, but it's still a book, so it's on this list. Okay? Okay. And one thing I liked about this book is that the poems are all linked by the author to a certain horror movie, and it made me realize just how far behind I am in my horror movie watching, because there's a lot on here I haven't even heard of, and I'm just like, wow, I used to be so in the loop. And what happened? And you know, one other thing I really liked about this book is that all the poems are very feminist, and I really respect that. Agents of Dreamland is the 7th book that I want to mention here, by Caitlin R. Kiernan. I've been putting off reading this for a long time. Caitlin R. Kiernan was one of my favorite writers for the longest time, and you could blame her for my obsession, what is now an obsession. Well, I wouldn't call it an obsession, but my pure enjoyment of reading weird fiction. She was a big part of me finding weird fiction and reading it, because she was sort of like the gateway drug for me. And I absolutely adore her work, but I stopped reading her, and I don't know why. I think she just wasn't putting out the novels as quickly as she used to. And this is a novella, and it was just a lot of fun. And I started reading it a year or two ago, and I just wasn't in the right mind frame for it. And I don't know why it didn't capture my imagination like it did this time around, because it's just, it's like, wow, you know, it's awesome. Also, number 8 here is The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. I was sent the ebook version of this by Michael. Thank you, Michael. And this was a lot of fun too, and it's although there's some humor and a lot of music in this book, it's also very terrifying, because something like this could happen. And that, to me, is where the real horror lies within this book. And it's kind of fascinating reading it for that alone, but I really began to care for the characters as I was reading along. And so I recommend that for sure. Book number 9 here is When the Shit Hits the Van. Even when I read it, I go to say fan. Sad. This is Night Owl, book number 1 by Chad Lutzke, and what I believe is going to be a series of private investigator Jinx and his one-legged sidekick. Anyways, yeah, this is a book about a guy whose aunt dies and leaves to him her motel, and that's the Night Owl. And so he moves in and he takes over, and somebody's taking a shit in the front every night, and he investigates. He begins to investigate because it's disgusting. And when he investigates this, he learns that there's something much darker taking place than somebody taking a dump in his front yard. And the last book I want to put on this list is The Hanover Block by Gregor Xane. It's funny how a lot of these books were sent to me. Cami from Cami's Horror Corner hooked me up with Gregor Xane I believe it was Gregor Xane sent me the book because he signed it. But yeah, so I got the first book, and I still need to read the second book because he sent that along too. And I'm really looking forward to the second one. I just haven't had the reading time to get to it just yet. But this is another weird, bizarro type story that's, it's very dark and sexual. It's basically about a thing that appears on people's lawns, and only the dudes can see it, and when they see it, it makes them incredibly horny, and they want to do things to it. And so they start building sheds and tents and whatever they can around this thing so that they can do those things in privacy. I'm going to leave it at that. Alright, so that is my first of the year wrap-up. First half of the year wrap-up. And my top 10 for that. So stick around to the end of the year and see which of those books make it to the end, because so far I've read a lot of great books, and it'll be interesting, honestly, to see what survives this top 10 list for the ultimate year-end top 10 list, because I'm hoping to continue the streak of reading really good books. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I am generally pretty easy to please. I don't know why that is. And despite that, I didn't like the Star Wars trilogy. What is it? Heir to the Empire, and the second book, Dark Force Rising. I couldn't get into that. But I guess you can't please everyone. All right, so thank you for watching. Please keep being safe out there. Keep being creative and healthy. And I'll catch you guys in the next book's video.